Welcome to Papillion UnScripted. I am Michael Severe, the place to go to hear from people who truly help make Papillion feel like home. A couple special guys joining us this week. We have the president of the Nebraska Vietnam Veterans Memorial Foundation, and he is Tom Brown, and his better half, I believe, the secretary and treasurer of the foundation as well, George Abbott. Good morning. How are you guys doing?
Doing good.
We appreciate you taking the time. I want to get this out of the way first.
Yes.
You were a Marine, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you went halfway and became a Navy guy.
And we had to transport their butts around.
Yeah, that's the...
And we appreciate the transportation.
Truly one of the greatest lines from Few Good Men. He goes, "I love when you guys take us to go fight." That's the best thing. Let's get started with kind of the beginning of this. How did you both first become involved in the idea for this memorial?
It was all his fault.
We had a Vietnam Veterans meeting in October of 2017, and the idea was brought up to do a memorial for Vietnam veterans. And George came over to me and said, "I don't know exactly what you're going to do, but I want to be a part of it." And from then forward, George and I have been working together on the memorial.
You guys had known each other before this, though, right?
Oh, yeah, we're in
Yeah.
the same chapter.
It seemed that
Okay.
we're in the same chapter of Vietnam veterans here in Nebraska.
Yeah.
What was really funny is that we both thought we could probably do something for $500,000 or $1 million.
Yeah.
How surprised were you, and maybe you already knew, that there wasn't a memorial in Nebraska for Vietnam veterans?
That's what prompted us.
Well, there is a memorial that says Vietnam veterans and Korean War veterans
Okay.
at Memorial Park.
Dedicated
We-
to Vietnam.
Yeah, and we wanted one that was just dedicated to Vietnam veterans.
When did you
So-
first realize that it was going to be a pretty hard job to get this done?
Well, we got the concept back from Prohasco, and they came up with a really wonderful concept, and we
Right.
started looking at all the granite, and we went, oh. But at that time, it looked like it was gonna be about $4 million, and now it looks like it's gonna be about 7.5, so.
Yeah, so it just, things have grown and exponentially, and we started out at 3.6, and then the shovel-ready money became available, and then other things happened, and now we're where we are, about 7 million.
Talk about the shovel-ready money. That's from the state.
Yes.
And it's like literally what it says. You have a project that's ready to be started,
Right,
and they give you money towards it.
right. And they give you basically half in the beginning and then half at the end, which makes it a little bit difficult to complete the project.
Right.
So we're working on getting the money maybe a little sooner, pay some bills.
We've heard so much about supply chain issues, and even granite, because when they did the thing over at the other location where they were trying to, at Betts Park. So
Yeah.
how hard has that been for you guys?
Well, we've had, our big delay was with the big obelisks that we're getting 11 of those, and the quarry was having a hard time getting them out of one area to get in a solid piece, so they pushed us from what we thought was gonna be November to May, June, so. But right now, I talked to them the other day, and they've got all the big blocks out, and they're now forming them, so
Yeah.
hopefully we'll gain a little ground on that.
Where are those
That would
being
be
done?
Barry, Vermont,
Okay,
at Rock of Ages Quarry.
that's awesome.
Yeah,
So where are we fundraising wise right now? I know we had an event as we were taping this last night
Yeah.
over at Exarban for a movie premiere there. Where are we at in terms of fundraising right now?
about 85%, something like that, George?
About 80, yeah.
Yeah, about 80%.
Yeah. Where would you say? I know the shovel red was a big part, but in terms of like individual donations, how much of that makes up the total you have now?
Over half.
Yeah, I'd say.
Yeah,
Wow.
we've got, you know, when somebody buys an obelisk, for example, that's $150,000, and we've had
Uh-huh.
a couple $100,000 donations and stuff like that, so we
Yeah.
haven't had the big home run, but, you know, we're still looking for that, but,
Yeah.
but we had a lot of, you know, $5, $10, $20,000 ones, and just, we've probably got over, almost 200 individual donors, so.
Yeah. It was difficult on fundraising because we started fundraising during 2020 and the pandemic hit,
Yeah.
and that just stopped everything.
Yeah.
So fundraising really didn't get started till 2021, when everything changed and the pandemic was over with, so to speak. But the state of Nebraska people have been just tremendous on looking at what we're doing and finding value in it and making contributions.
What I've noticed since I've been here is how many people are involved in this, right? You guys have an entire group of people who are basically volunteers, right, in terms of that. You have what happened over at Iowa Western with them putting the helicopter together.
Tremendous support from them.
We saw the event last night at Exarban.
Right.
It's incredible how many people are involved in this.
Yeah, the more people know about it, the more people get drawn into it, because almost everybody has been touched by that war. And, you know, even though we're all old, I mean, there's still got some parents alive from kids that were over there. You still got brothers and sisters and friends, and they all, once they hear about it, they want to do something, so.
We've had a lot of support from Bellevue University also.
Yeah.
They have been just really tremendous with helping us with web pages and things like that. And some of their people are, our vice president works for Bellevue, you know, so we've been very fortunate. The mayor here of Papillion has been very supportive,
Right.
and helped us when we were looking for a property. He gave us a list of properties to look at and go around town and look at this, look at that, and that's why eventually we settled on the property there at, right behind Sumter Theater.
Yeah. It has so many things to it. It's up high.
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Obviously, people go to Sumter.
Right.
In the thousands, they'll be
Yep.
able to go there. The mayor always talks about how you have a great view of Walnut Creek Park and
Yes,
everything
we
else.
do.
It really, it was hard to find a better place than that.
No, that's a perfect spot.
Yeah, it's just a perfect
When the
spot.
helicopter sits up there, it actually looks like it commands the site, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Where'd the idea for the helicopter come from?
the
For it to
helicopter.
be the centerpiece of the memorial.
Well, we always wanted one in
Yeah.
there, and Tom found one from one of his colleagues in Vermont, and they gave it to us because they couldn't raise the money to refurbish it.
Mm.
So we shipped it in here from Bennington to Bennington, as you
Interesting.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the story goes that we thought it was a medevac helicopter, and it turned out to be a command and control helicopter, and you were up there when we did the restoration opening up.
All right.
And the original crew was there, and that was probably one of the most emotional times you could think of, even though
Yeah.
they weren't Nebraska vets.
Right.
Right.
They were Vietnam vets that hadn't been together for 53 years, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so we talk a lot since the pandemic about community, because we lost the community of going to church, we lost the community of going to sporting events, and
Right.
the community you guys have with the people you served with is
Yeah.
remarkable, and we saw that. Those
Yeah.
5 guys standing there for the first time in 50 years,
Yeah.
I get goosebumps
Yeah,
thinking
it's-
about what it was like.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a movie script, it really happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was for real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you'd think that was something, if someone wrote that script and said this worked out this way,
You
you
could.
wouldn't believe it.
No.
You know, how do you find people that flew that helicopter that you got from Vermont to finding the pilot, the co-pilot and the crew
Right.
chiefs
Yeah.
and all that from California, Arizona, and all
Mhm.
these kind of places to come to the middle of the United States?
Right.
Really worked great.
We still talk to them almost every day.
Yeah.
And they can't wait for the opening because they're coming.
Yeah, they wanna come
I
back to
bet, I
Brandon.
bet, I can imagine that.
They had a great time here.
Yeah.
And Iowa Western just did a tremendous job with the support of their staff over at this college and using the students
Yeah.
to work on it.
I think one of Alejandro, who was one of the second crew chief, I think, on that helicopter, he was telling
Uh-huh.
us that when they got a chance to sign the inside wall,
Yeah.
and the students got to sign it with them,
Yeah.
he said that was very touching, because he said these kids just don't know, and these kids wanted to learn, so.
Right.
That was part of why we do it, you know, the educational piece of it, so.
Right.
I was going to ask about that because that is a big component of this memorial, the educational piece,
Right.
and also the memories of people who served and their families. Can you talk about that part of the memorial?
Well, the big issue that Dottie Berrickman's been heading up our Education and History Committee, and they have a program going now called Tell Your Story.
Mhm.
And we're trying to get as many Vietnam vets as we can to go down and do a professional interview, and that'll be recorded and go to the Library of Congress and then onto our website. And there's been some resistance from the guys that haven't gone yet. They're afraid that, you know, they don't want to talk about things that they don't want to talk about. But the guys that have been there and opened up and found out it's very cathartic, and it makes them feel really good that they get it out. And we've had 2 or 3 children of people that have gone down for interviews that have said, he's never talked to us about it, but now we understand some things. So that's one of the reasons you want to capture those stories, because if you look at World War II vets, they're all gone.
Yeah.
For the most part, most of the
Yeah.
Korean vets are gone, and you can never get those stories back. And even though you might have not been the guy out there holding the gun and doing a lot of shooting, but still you had something in the war that you did, and it's very meaningful, and you carry it with you, as we mentioned last night, you know, and then you got the whole thing of PTSD,
Mhm.
and this is a great way to help alleviate that. And the VA has told us they're very happy that we're doing that, because some of the guys they're treating for PTSD are most of them are Vietnam vets at this point, some of the younger ones coming back,
Mhm.
but we've just got a lot of that going on, plus the barcodes we're using that were, not barcodes, but
QR codes.
QR codes
Yeah.
on all of the various stands and stuff that tell about the monuments. You can snap that QR code, you can get a whole history of everything that's listed on the obelisks and stuff like that, so.
Yeah.
That was one of our fundamental things when we started, was to educate people about the war. And as you saw last night with that movie, I mean, there was so many facets of the war, good and bad, and, you know, things that the government didn't want you to necessarily talk about, but they have to be talked about.
Yeah.
That's how you learn not to keep making mistakes. And it's just been, I think, one of the most fun parts of this thing is getting these interesting stories and having guys talk. And our chapter guys now start talking a little more at chapter meetings about what they did and stuff like that. So it's really very cathartic for all of us,
Yeah.
so.
I've been to the World War II Museum in New Orleans a number of times. I love that place.
Yes.
Take my kids with me, and they always talk about hearing the voices of the veterans, what that means to them.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be important because we can learn all we want in books
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
even some of these movies, but they hear from you guys. I think that's the
Yeah.
most important thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a major undertaking, and as Tom will tell you, I mean, Tom spent a lot more time in country than I did, but when you get a chance to relate and talk to people about it, it just really helps you kind of get through it, because none of it was fun.
Oh,
No.
yeah. Yeah. You guys have an honorary committee, which is
Yes.
very diverse, so many different people on it.
Yeah.
But you still have Howard Ball's name on there too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Obviously passed away a couple of years now. First of all, what was that like after that happened, trying to regroup? Because he was an important part of.
Yeah, he was
of
the
you
vice
guys'
president.
Vice president. And I know he was
Right.
kind of the spokesperson too. A lot of the
Yeah,
TV
right.
people interviewed
Right.
him. Yeah.
Did all of that stuff. It was difficult, but we had to reorganize a little bit, and we shifted a few things around, and we still keep his memory involved. His wife is being actively involved.
Mhm.
She's working on the Veteran Tell Your Story part, and so she's working on that with us. And we had another very active member, Richard Luth. And Richard passed away here this summer, and he had leukemia from Agent Orange. And we still stay in contact with his wife also. So they were both an integral part of the organization, and we are keeping them involved as much as they want to be involved.
Once we got this thing started to get pushed off, that you had the three key people in there, myself, Tom, and Howard, and none of us were from Nebraska, which I always found interesting.
Yeah.
Right.
It wasn't that we had to be from Nebraska, but it was important that Nebraska have this memorial.
Right.
So, and
Yeah.
Howard, as you said, was Mr. Personality, just a
Yeah.
wonderful guy. It was very fun, not funny, but odd, when he had his stroke the second time and went home, and they knew he wasn't gonna last long. Tom and I went over and sat on his bedside, would talk to him even though he didn't know we were there, but
Yeah.
you know, you don't forget those memories, and
Yeah.
he was a wonderful guy. His wife is kind of an honorary committee member now for our board. She comes to our meetings when she can, and she wants to stay involved. And well, we have, when he was cremated, I asked her to save a little bit of his ashes, and when we do his bench, we're gonna put his ashes under there and have a chaplain come in and do a little ceremony to really make it,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's how much we think about him, so.
Yeah.
You last night, and I've heard you guys talk about it before. There was an incident in the ocean where two boats collided.
Oh, yeah.
And three of the members or four members were from Nebraska. Can you tell us a little bit more about
Yeah,
that?
well, that was the USS Evans, which was a destroyer, hull number 754, and I was on hull number 759, which is an exact sister ship. And she came off the gun line and went down to just outside of the territorial waters to participate in a multinational exercise with the HMS Melbourne, which is an aircraft carrier. And on March 3rd, they had interpretation of changing course and stuff, and the Evans screwed up and went in front of her and got cut in half. And the front half of that ship went down in about 3 minutes and took 74 people with them. One body came up, and the rest of them were all down there. 3 of them were the Sage brothers from Niobrara, Nebraska, and one was a guy named Hogsden from Beatrice, Nebraska. So And we've got very involved with the Sage family, remnants of the family, and have made a big deal about getting them included on our wall and in our obelisk and everything we can, because they've been petitioning since 1970 to get all 74 names on the wall in Washington.
Right.
And they haven't been able to do it because it was outside of the territorial waters, which is crazy, because these kids just came outside of the gun line to go down there, so. But it's in fact, one of the stations here, KETV, Rob McCartney is gonna do a special on them after we did an interview with him for Veterans Day.
Nice.
And he's gonna go down or get a video of when they actually engraved the Sage Brothers' names on our monument that's being done down in Kansas City. And then he's gonna go up and interview Linda Vaugh, who was the wife of, I can't remember which one of the Sage boys, but she's since remarried. And I went out to Portsmouth, or Portland, Maine, they had their annual convention, or what the remembrance is what they call it, in October. Went out there, and that was probably one of the most moving ceremonies I've ever been to. They mixed a lot of fun things, but with a very serious one evening of, ringing the bell for each name and stuff like that. And these people, they had 3 people from Melbourne, from Australia, come to this, and it's amazing how tight that group has become. So, and this, unfortunately, although I was Navy, I was not from Nebraska at that time, so when I didn't have any idea that the Sage Brothers were gone, and so when we found that out, Tom and I just said we need to make an effort to make this happen, and we have. So they'll have a special, one of our tile walls, a special tile wall is being converted to being one of the engraved walls, and that'll be the whole story of that. Let's get a picture of
We pictured the ship and everything else
Oh,
on there.
wow.
Yeah.
So what's next? Where are we now? Obviously, we're coming up on the holidays, so things slow down a little bit, but where are we now in terms of what you guys are doing?
Right now, I'm working with Hawkins. We're trying to, we just got a notice from the state that we don't have to have Davis-Bacon for our labor.
Okay.
At least that's the way I interpret it. I'm having Hawkins interpret it right now.
Right.
And if that's the case, that will help us quite a bit financially, because as you know, that adds quite a bit of money. And then once Hawkins gets that straightened out, they're doing some independent work on things they want to do. But we think we're going to start shoveling some dirt up there sometime in December. We want to get the restroom built and put that honor wall up this year if we can. The helicopter will go in early next year, but right now we're not going to put it up because there's no security there, and we don't want to have people crawling all over it and everything. So, but we're optimistic. We've still got to raise some money, but I don't know if you remember, I was down here a couple of days ago and met with the mayor and some of the planning people to talk about phase 2, even though it's not official. We haven't board approved it or anything yet, but we're going to have a museum up there at some point in time. And I've talked to Fred Huey about possibly having an office of the Sarpy County Tourism over there so that we can have another draw over there. So these are things we're trying to get ahead of, and it's going to take some more time, but
It's a year down the road here and there, but,
but if you don't have the vision, you don't get there. So that's the plan, and the mayor's been, as with everything we've done, he's been very, very supportive, and has showed us where we can have a little more land up there to add to put the building up. And that would, I think, one of the reasons I wanted to talk to him about that was because of the sewage and water and electrical going up for the restrooms, so we can extend that now and not have to do it later.
Good idea.
Dig up the monument and stuff, so. But that's down the road, but I'll throw it out there.
It might be a couple of years down the road, but.
Well, transportation people always say you build a road before the traffic.
Yep.
Because that's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
Last thing, I know you're very busy right now with all of this, but do you ever spend a little bit of time thinking about what's going to be like when you have the grand opening? When all of this gets to the point to where everybody shows up and you have that day?
I do.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about how we're gonna have everybody there and recognize everybody that we need to recognize.
Yeah.
Right.
Because there's been so many people that have been integral in this thing. And they're smaller donors and stuff, but they've been key to what we're doing, so.
Well, so many of the people that are direct relatives of the people that are on the honor wall, and they're in their 70s.
Sure.
And they're looking in one of the first questions, when are you guys gonna be open?
Yeah.
you know, well,
I wanna live to see it.
yeah. Well, and I told George that's something he and I are kinda gotta look at too. We wanted to live to see the opening too, so
Right.
the sooner the better. But we are looking at the summer of next year.
Summer of 2023.
Yeah,
Yeah, if
that's
all,
the tentative schedule.
if all goes well, we'll have it up before the 4th of July.
Yeah.
That-
Okay.
That depends on the obelisk getting here, so.
Yeah.
We'll hold you to that.
Yeah, no, we haven't had any problem having to flex the date.
I understand. Everybody's
We've been able
fine,
to-
yeah.
People
Yeah.
say, you gotta get a firm date. I said, you can't get a firm date when you got things like these things.
And fundraising still has a major concern there.
Sure. And if
Yeah.
people want to donate, they can.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
More than happy to get them. They can go on the website and donate, or they can just send a check to nvvmf.org at 7914 West Dodge Road. And we'll be glad to accept any and all.
I'm sure you will.
And any constructive ideas, we're open to.
Take those as well.
Sure.
I'll
Yeah,
even
so-
drive over and pick up cash.
Yeah.
If you want to do that. Guys, we appreciate it. It was a good
You
talk.
betcha.
Good seeing you. And this
Thank
is
you.
this is an
Thank you
amazing
very much.
project, and I'm so excited. I can't wait to see it next summer.
You'll be there.
No, I
You'll
definitely
be-
will be there. I'll definitely
You
be
are
there.
invited.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much. Again, join us when we again speak with someone who truly helps Papillion feel like home.